Research has shown that Afro hair, particularly type 4 hair, has got more oils within the hair than any other hair type. That tells you one thing: automatically our hair is gonna float. What determines if something sinks in water or not is not necessarily porosity, but really density. Debunking 5 of the most common low porosity claims that we've had running in the natural hair community for years. Number 1 is the fact that I am low porosity hair because the porosity test said it. Let me tell you, there's so many things that are wrong with that water porosity test, that deep porosity test where you put your hair in the water and, you know, if it sinks, then it's high porosity, and if it floats, then it's low porosity. Research has shown that Afro hair, particularly type 4 hair, has got more oils within the hair than any other hair type. That tells you one thing: automatically our hair is gonna float, because oil and water don't mix, okay? Oil and water repel each other. Just that reason tells you that that porosity test will not be accurate.
Another thing that I just wanted to point out, guys, is that when you think about porosity, right? Something such as a sponge is considered something that's quite porous. And yet when you place it in water, it floats. Hey, it floats. So it is highly porous, which means it can actually take in a lot of water in one go. And yet, even with that ability, it still floats. And even after it's saturated with water to capacity, you can see that it still actually floats. Even if it sinks a little bit, it is not down to the bottom or the base of the water, which tells you one thing: highly porous objects or things will float in water as well. Like, putting your hair in water is not a determinant of porosity. It's really about density. And if a sponge is considered something that's very porous, it means that your hair floating in water is more likely to be high porosity than it is to be low porosity.
The other thing is what determines if something sinks in water or not is not necessarily porosity, but really density. How heavy it is. That's what's going to determine if, you know, that's pretty much what the porosity test determines, you know, the density, like how dense your hair is compared to the water you're testing it in. And yeah, porosity isn't really going to affect to that extent or in that way how your hair responds or how your hair behaves when surrounded by water. Yes, it might take the water in quicker, right? But even low porosity will take the water in at some point. So the hair will still take the moisture in. It's just the rate at which that moisture goes into the hair. Depending on how cold the water is, if it's lukewarm, if it's warm, depending on where on your head you've taken the hair from. Some hairs are more high porosity than others. If it's the ends, it's probably more damaged. Depending on what's on your hair, if you've got product on your hair, girl, it's really not testing porosity, that test, so scratch it. Ooh, when I go into the shower and I wet my hair, there's bubbles on my hair, and yeah, that means that it's low porosity, girl. If you have been putting creams and oils and butters and product on your hair for weeks and you go and stand under the shower, of course, the water will initially just sit on top of you. There is a barrier. There's so much sitting on the hair that's preventing water from going in, not necessarily that it's low porosity. Maybe there's just product. So for that reason, you can't use the bubbles as a determinant of porosity. My hair is always dry. Oh, it's so hard to get moisture into my hair because it's so low porosity. The simple fact that your hair is always dry is actually a characteristic of high porosity hair. Low porosity hair retains moisture very, very well. So once you've washed it, hydrated it on wash day, and that cuticle is sealed, it is fine. That moisture is in there until you're ready to wash the hair again on your wash day. Now, obviously, if you don't wash your hair in a month, for example, and you haven't done anything to hydrate or infuse moisture and hydration into the hair between your monthly washes, then yes, your hair is going to be dry. But if you're a weekly washer, for example, your hair is not going to be dry within a week if you are low porosity. So yes, the moisture does escape slowly, even with low porosity hair, but not to the extent where your hair is now just known to be dry. If your hair is known to be dry, that is more high porosity characteristics, because high porosity hair loses moisture quicker. At the same rate, it's gaining it very fast. It takes in moisture and products very fast, but it also loses those products very quickly. That is more high porosity hair. So if your hair is always dry, yeah, that's more high porosity. The next one is, oh, it's so hard to get product into low porosity hair. I struggle so much. It's not hard to get moisture into low porosity hair. It just means that the cuticle needs to be raised intentionally. How do you do that? With heat. You're not gonna be struggling to get moisture in. No, you just need to use heat. It's not hard. Yeah, so there's a notion going, and I think Natural Hair God has spoken about this. I think he sort of said people sort of lie or just try to make you believe that it's hard to get hydration into low porosity hair. It actually isn't. You just need to know how to get the moisture into the hair. It's not difficult. You just need to know the steps that you need to take to get that moisture in. Once the moisture is in, the cuticle shuts and the moisture is maintained. Now, another thing that people try to say, or that people say, is that, oh, I have to keep working product in quite a bit, you know, for the moisture to go into the hair because my hair is low porosity. Makes sense? Of course, if you're low porosity and you're trying to get product into a closed cuticle, then the moisture is not going anywhere. However, sometimes we try to feed more moisture, more product to our hair than our hair can take. The hair will take as much product as it can. Okay, if you leave product on your hair long enough, it will seep through the cuticle, even with low porosity hair. Heat helps do that more effectively and more quicker, but even if you just leave the product on the hair, it will seep through eventually. Okay, it might take longer, but it will seep through. So the fact that you're working product in and you're struggling to get the product in doesn't necessarily mean that your hair is low porosity. It could be that your hair has taken as much as it can, and now you're trying to force more product into the hair, and that is actually a damaging practice. To try and force product into the hair, that's a no-no. So yeah, just consider, is your hair actually not taking product, or maybe it's just had enough? The last one is that the hair takes long to dry. What is long? What is long to dry? One. Number two, if you're not using heat to dry your hair, it's automatically going to take a bit longer. Number three, if you have applied oils, creams and oils to your scalp, to your hair, it's going to take a little bit longer because that oil is actually locking moisture in. It's keeping that moisture in for longer. So it might actually just be the oil that you've applied that's taking, or that's making you think or feel that your hair is taking longer to dry, not necessarily that your hair is low porosity. I am rethinking porosity in this year 2024. I know this is not everyone's cup of tea. I know many will come out here and try to eat me alive. These are things that I'm implementing in my own routine because it makes sense. I'm done with following the crowd, guys. Let me know if you're done with following the crowd. Let me know what other low porosity claims we can debunk, or what other natural hair claims that you think you need to go, or that you've debunked or rethought within your routine, each to their own. Like I say, this is me, this is what I'm doing. I obviously have a platform, so I'm going to come out here and share it. I'm not necessarily saying do it, but if it makes sense and if it works for you here, then definitely do it. However, this is just me and what I am finding out about our hair. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, bye.